All right, shalom, shalom. Welcome to another edition of the Vin Lloyd University. This is part 3 of the reaction to the documentary called What the Bleep Do We Know? How's everybody? Everybody okay? For those of you that can talk, everybody all
Pretty
right?
good.
Yeah, everybody good, bro. How's it going, bro?
Same old, same old. I'm knocking stuff out in terms of the editing.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, though? Everything all right?
Yeah, everything good, bro.
Nice, nice. All right, so let's get started because we got an hour and change. Let me see. This is 148, and then it'll go up to 355. So trying to get all of that in. All right.
That's a real brain fart, isn't it? Because when you think about it, you just, well, wait a minute, no. They're like here, here, here. So it's obviously 1, 2, 3.
No, you can't, and you can't pull one away from the others. If you try to pull one away from the others, the entire thing will just disappear. And then furthermore, you know, you've seen Star Trek and whatnot. Beam me up, Scotty.
Beam me up, Scotty.
So it all seems sort of, oh, well, you know, what does that really mean? But you've got to really stop and think about what that means, that it's the same object and it's in two places at once. And people tinker in the lab and they get angry about things and they have.
All right. So for anybody who wasn't around for the last episode or isn't aware of what they're talking about contextually, we are dealing with something called quantum entanglement. Okay, so quantum entanglement is when two particles link together in a certain way, no matter how far apart they are in space.
Have lunch and they go home and they lead their lives just as though nothing utterly astounding is happening, because of course that's how you have to go about it. And yet there is this completely amazing magic sitting right in front of your eyes.
We took two simple black boxes like this. Inside is a very simple electric circuit with a few diodes, oscillator, EEPROM, some resistors and capacitors. Basically that's it. We wrap one in aluminum foil. We put it in an electrically grounded Faraday cage. The other we set on a tabletop around which 4 very well qualified meditators, highly inner self-managed individuals sit. And they go into a deep meditative state. They cleanse the environment. They make it essentially a sacred space using their mind cleansing procedures and their intentions. And then one of the 4 speaks the specific intention for this device. The intention is to...
He mentions a Faraday cage. Faraday cage or Faraday shield is an enclosure used to block some electromagnetic fields. It doesn't create its own energy field, but it would block the influence of any electrical stimulus coming from the environment. For instance, your electronics during an EMP, you want to place them in a Faraday cage or Faraday bag of some sort, which will deflect the harmful electromagnetic impulses, which could destroy the electronic device that you're trying to protect. So just peep how he's using it in relation to the mind, right? The mind being an electromagnetic substance. I'll use that word loosely. All right, let me run it back.
Took two simple black boxes like this. Inside is a very simple electric circuit with a few diodes, oscillator, EEPROM, some resistors and capacitors. Basically that's it. We wrap one in aluminum foil. We put it in an electrically grounded Faraday cage. The other we set on a tabletop around which 4 very well qualified meditators, highly inner self-managed individuals sit. And they go into a deep meditative state. They cleanse the environment. They make it essentially a sacred space using their mind cleansing procedures and their intentions. And then one of the 4 speaks the specific intention for this device. The The intention is to influence a particular target experiment. Might be to increase the pH of purified water by 1 full pH unit, or to decrease the pH by 1 full pH unit. We've used these devices on all those experiments and have been robustly successful. In the meditative process, then after one speaks the particular intention, it's held various ways by the four for maybe 15 minutes, and then so be it, it's let go. And then a subsidiary intention is stated to seal that imprint into the device. We take one of these devices with its aluminum foil, we put it in a soft package, we put it in a FedEx packet, we ship it 2,000 miles away to the laboratory we were using up in Minnesota. And as soon as it arrives there, it goes into its own electrically rounded Faraday cage. The next day we do the same with the control. The experiment is running, and basically then one just takes the device out, sets it beside the experiment within 6 inches to a foot, and turns it on for a period of time. That's it. Now, we learned over some period of time that there was another factor. We found that the use of these, we call them intention imprinted electrical devices, the continued use of this somehow conditions the space to some higher level of symmetry. And we start getting new phenomena. That is, the devices work. That is, the pH, which is normal, starts rising 1 full pH unit, if that was the imprint, or starts dropping. If you go 1 full pH unit or beyond, you're dead. I mean, that's what it means to a human.
REG machines, random event generators, are electronic tosses of the coin.
One type of random number generator experiment that's been conducted many, many times, hundreds of times, over the past 4 decades or so, since around the 1960s, has been a random generator that only produces sequences of random bits, zeros and ones, like flipping coins. And you would simply ask somebody to press a button, it would produce 200 bits. And you would ask them to say, well, try to make it produce more 1 bits than 0 bits. And when you take the entire body of literature, all of the hundreds of experiments that have been done, you can ask a single question. Did it matter that people were trying to push it towards ones or push it towards zeros? And the overall answer is yes, it does matter. That somehow intention is correlated with the operation, with the output of these random number generators, such that if you wish for more ones, somehow the generators produce more ones.
So when they
All right. Are you hearing what they're saying? The power of intention and mental focus, observation. So like we were saying in the last episode, when we are pulling possibilities down from the causal realm down into actuality through focus or intention, okay, observation. Very important. And with the last guy, when he was talking, just in case anybody missed the culmination of what he was saying, he was referring to the human body being mostly water, and then how intention or the mind affects the pH balance of the water. So if the intention of words and the mind affects the pH balance of water, and the body is 80 to 85% water or 70 to 75% water, your mind and the intentions that you have a tremendous effect on the body. Even the scriptures let you know this.
Vin, have you read the book, The Hidden Messages in Water?
Yeah, we have it. It's in the library. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So with Masaru Emoto. Yeah, I did a presentation on that in like 2008. So let's check out this verse from Proverbs to give an example, right? Proverbs 17 and 22. A merry or a joyful heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bones, or dries up the bones. Now, what are your bones known for producing?
Marrow?
Exactly. And what is marrow turned into? Your blood. Yeah, your blood.
Oh, yeah.
So this is the source of your red blood cells, is your bones. The bone marrow contains stem cells which produce the body's red blood cells and platelets, and some types of white blood cells. Red blood cells carry oxygen to the body's tissues, and platelets help the blood clotting when someone has a cut or a wound. White blood cells help the body fight infection. So this is all a step-by-step process. Now, if we're saying that the septonic field affects the morphogenic field of the body and then causes the body to respond to what the septonic field elicits, or the auric field, or the soul's countenance, to use scriptural terms, then if there's an effect radiating from within the body and from the bones on outwards, we would expect it to work the same way moving in the other direction. It's like that toroidal field. Energy it flows inwards and outwards. What's inwards is and should be reflected on the outside, and what's outside should be reflected on what's the inside. That's at least how energy works. So in the same sense, if the bones are producing the carrier of the life which is in the blood, well, then maybe we should pay attention to what influences the bones. And according to the scriptures and what the Most High God is saying in Proverbs, a cheerful spirit is like good medicine, but a broken spirit, okay, somebody who succumbed to wickedness and to sin, is like having dry bones. It's like having, bones that don't produce blood, and blood is the life source. So, it's like drying out. It's like dying. Just view it like you see this toroidal field here. The energy inwards reverberates outwards and vice versa.
Talk about in quantum physics being a completely arbitrary and random process. What they're not accounting for is the extraordinary effect of human thought, of human intention.
When the O.J. Simpson trial was going on, lots of people were watching television because of the courtroom drama that was unfolding. And Radin intuited that there must be a lot of intention going on at the time when the courtroom drama is strong. So he hired a bunch of psychologists who kept track of the courtroom drama. At the same time, Radin was studying the behavior of random number generators. But then Radin found that whenever the intentions were strong in the courtroom, that's when the deviation of these random number generators from randomness becomes very high.
This leads naturally to wonder, do people...
All right, let me play this back one more time.
So when they talk about in quantum physics being a completely arbitrary and random process, what they're not accounting for is the extraordinary effect of human thought, of human intention.
When the O.J. Simpson trial was going on,
effect of human thought, of human intention.
When the O.J. Simpson trial was going on, lots of people were watching television because of the courtroom drama that was unfolding. And Radin intuited that there must be a lot of intention going on at the time when the courtroom drama is strong. So he hired a bunch of psychologists who kept track of the courtroom drama. At the same time, Radin was studying the behavior of random number generators. But then Radin found that whenever the intentions were strong in the courtroom, that's when the deviation of these random number generators from randomness becomes very high.
All right, I'm going to pause him here because he's making a very crucial indirect point, which will assist us in understanding how they herd populations of people into a certain direction by using the mass media. If you can get people emotionally invested in a particular philosophical conclusion or persuasion, you can then herd the majority of society in the direction that you need them to go. This is what the entire field of public relations was based off of. So public relations is the same as propaganda. And they were both worked on by the nephew of Sigmund Freud, Edward Bernays. Edward Louis Bernays was an American pioneer in the field of public relations and propaganda, and referred to in his obituary as the father of public relations. Given media is the fourth branch of the government, it is important for them to dish out information and disinformation so that it's information overload, so that people don't know how to process anything because they have no context to ground themselves within the flurry of information that's being put forth, which for most people, it would just be easier to go along with what everybody else deems is reality. So it's very important to just understand human nature and intention and how important it is, and focus and observation. If you're thinking about a particular timeline or world line, for this instance, if we're talking about how a common event is going to affect all of us, perhaps we shouldn't be focusing on the pessimistic and negative aspects. You're drying the life force out of the situation. You are dwindling all of the possibilities of a positive outcome, and you are narrowing it down within the realms above you into actuality, into the realm that you're in. So intention and focus is key. And like the brother was mentioning before with Masaru Emoto and the hidden messages in water, based on your intention and the words being used and the energy or the frequency associated with the words, they will determine how crystal structures for water are formed when they're frozen, with the intention placed on the particular water. So he's got a whole book. We've got this scanned in the library.
While looking at that image right there, that dude that talks about the clowns being Nephilim, he talks about that kind of imagery being, and speaking of the dimensions being, I guess, Nephilim dimension pattern work, I guess.
Yep. The geometric patterns and the crazy type of shapes that they have and show. Absolutely, yep. So this is it. This is the preliminary version of the book, but he has two other books which are way denser than this. So this is like the warm up, way denser than this, like 2 volumes of it. They're expensive as shit because he has way more details in it than what he's put in here. This is just like to wet people's palate. But it's available for you guys. It's called The Hidden Messages in Water.
This leads naturally to wonder, are people affecting the world of reality that they see? You betcha they are. Every single one of us affects the reality that we see, even if we try to hide from that and play victim. We all are doing it.
Right. So even if you say it's not me, the people who try to play both sides of the fence, oh, well, I didn't vote for so-and-so, or I didn't do this, or I didn't do that. The fact that you didn't take action and then choose the right option when you did take action, if you were to, is a big deal. And all of those type of people contribute to why the world ends up in the position that it ends up in. Like baby boomers, for instance, they'll look at the world and see the world in the condition it's in, but they're totally removed from their contributions as to why the world is in the condition they're in, even though they've been around 40, 50 years before most of us, right? They'll hold their hands up and act like they're the victims. You see? But go ahead.
Just tell me where you are. Good. But hurry, will you please? Because these models are giving me a headache.
Hey, minute!
Ain't no way she was picking them pills up, them dirty ass pills up, knowing you gotta put them shits in your mouth. Ain't no way you finna wash them shits off. So like, she was late for the train for no reason. That was a dumb 0-1 decision right there. Like, I don't know how expensive them pills is, but god damn it. All right, see? And that's funny. Now they're mentioning Masaru Emoto.
Became terribly interested in the molecular structure of water and what affects it. Now, water is the most receptive of the four elements. Mr. Emoto thought perhaps it would respond to non-physical events. So he set up a series of studies, applied mental stimuli, and photographed it with a microscope.
Now, I want you to notice she missed the train for a reason, so that she can have this moment right here. So everything, every 0 and 1 equation, whether you like the outcome or not, is a part of an overall equation. It's meant to put you on a course for something, an experience for you to learn. Everything happens for a reason, in other words, that cliche.
For
one sample of water, we drop about 0.5 cc's onto each 50 petri dishes.
And photographed it.
For one sample of water, we drop about 0.5 cc's onto each 50 petri dishes. Then we take those 50 petri dishes and freeze them in a freezer at minus 25 degrees Celsius for about 3 hours. We take those frozen samples into a refrigerator that is set at minus 5 degrees Celsius, where a microscope with a camera is set up. There we take photographs of each of the 50 water drops individually. We first take photographs of water that we did not put any information in. Then we take the water with information and do the same procedure just described. We take those before and after photographs and compare the differences. When we projected the feeling of love and thanks to water, it made the most beautiful crystal.
All right, so positive energy has more order and structure. It produces beautiful crystals.
At times like this, I think water is at peace.
This first picture is a picture of water from the Fujiwara Dam. And this picture is the same water after receiving a blessing from a Zen Buddhist monk. Now, in this next series of pictures, Mr. Emoto printed out words, taped them to bottles of distilled water, and left them out overnight. This first photograph is a picture of the pure distilled water, just the essence of itself. These subsequent photographs.
Why would Masaru use distilled water? Because it's empty. It has no imperfections in it. No inorganic molecules.
Distilled water, just the essence of itself. These subsequent photographs, as you can see, are each different. This is the chi of love. And we move along here to thank you. And you can see where he taped that to this bottle here. But if you read Japanese, you already knew that. Now, Mr. Emoto speaks of the thought or intent being the driving force in all of this. The science of how that actually affects the molecules is unknown, except to the water molecules, of course.
So just think of Genesis, right? When God says he moved over the face of the waters. If God is not a physical being, what moved over the face of the waters? It's his intention, his spirit, that electromagnetic force. Because remember, Genesis 1:1, Herbert Spencer's law. You need time, space, matter, force, and motion in order for existence to come into play. Can't have existence without all five of these things. Now, to move over the face of the waters is motion, or the act of creating movement, something observable. So you see how all of this continues to tie in. The electromagnetism, the need for perfect water or perfectly neutral water, intention and focus. And then through intention, focus, and water, you get structured sound. So the structures that we find in water are pretty much contained frequency. This is why the crystals will form based off of the positive energy that you give it. The word wisdom in Japanese gives a similar styled, if not identical styled, crystal formation to the same word in English and the same word in German. Take a look there. Now, I'm quite sure wisdom in Japanese sounds way different than it does in English, and wisdom in English and Japanese sound way different than it does in German. Yet, the water is picking up on the intention, not necessarily the sound itself or what's necessarily being said. It's what's being intended. So intention is a very big thing. One crystal, when you say you're cute, gives structure, order. The one that you tell it it's a fool look like Cancer. It looks like no structure at all. Kind of looks like zooming in on a plant and plant cells are structured, but for the case of the argument that they're making for comparison purposes. Take a look at here. The words for cosmos to your right in Japanese, English, and German. Not exactly the same, but very similar in structure. Same thing here. Remember what we were talking about with the 0 and 1 equation, and then there's no choice. So you have choice 0, choice 1, and then no choice. That truth is still reflected within Masaru Emoto's experiment. Look, when the children said, "You're beautiful" a few times, the structure that you see above is what was formed. When the children said, "You're beautiful" several times, this is the structure you see in the middle. Now, when the water is ignored, when the water was told, "You're beautiful" several times, it resulted in crystals more well-formed than when the water was only told this for a few times. But the crystal formed by the ignored water was the least complete. So this is why giving somebody negative attention and giving them positive attention are two sides to the same coin. But completely ignoring somebody is a whole different ball game. That'll drive a motherfucker crazy, especially when they're seeking of attention, seeking of quantum entanglement. Because remember, hatred is just love in a really intense way, in a really weird way. So anyway, let's keep going.
And it's really fascinating when you keep in mind that 90% of our bodies are water.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? If thoughts can do that to water, imagine what our thoughts can do to us.
Right. So niggas who be walking around with the whole tough guy energy and then be wondering why they find themselves in tough guy situations, that's because they constantly have that shit on the brain. All right? Constantly playing the music in the ears, listening to that type of energy all day long. It reflects and exudes all throughout the energy of the body because you are 75, 80, 85% water. So this is where this law of attraction game now starts to come in, I think, which is what we kind of left off at. And I told you guys I would hint towards, so I'll keep my word. So the law of attraction versus the law of awareness, right? Attraction is the action or power of evoking interest or pleasure, the like of someone or something. Synchronicity is the simultaneous occurrence of events which appear significantly related, yet with no discernible causal connection. And then awareness is the knowledge or perception of a situation or fact, the concern and well-informed interest in a particular situation or development. Just keep those definitional values in mind for these three words as we read through this here. A, one attracts from the outside what they resonate with on the inside. Okay. Now, this is true to a certain degree. I do understand the argument of, well, what about a baby who gets hit by a stray bullet? What did they do to resonate that type of energy to bring that upon themselves? So I wouldn't agree that a child would resonating some type of negative energy that would attract that to them. But yeah, I'm not, or maybe it could be the case and we just don't want to see, or I just don't want to see it that way. I don't know. I haven't figured that part out yet, but I would listen to arguments of that nature. Go ahead.
What about the parents? I've always thought it was related to the parents.
It could be, but what about, well, see, that's the thing. Like when you hear of on the news, this baby got shot in this drive-by situation and then the parents didn't have nothing to do with it. Nobody in that house ain't have nothing to do with it. It was just a stray bullet that happened to strike the child. Unless, well,
I mean, from our perspective, nobody had anything to do with it, but how I see it, even outside a spiritual perspective, if you live a certain kind of life, you kind of leave your family up to a certain risk.
Right, but what if you're not living that life? That still happens to people who don't live that life at all. Innocent people don't have nothing to do with nothing, die. You know what I mean? So why does that happen? Not exactly sure.
I was going to say that, man, like you can consider like children like close to God, like in a way. So like once you have like a certain level of like positive vibration, you're going to attract negative energy and positive energy to yourself.
So in the example that we given, like for instance with the child, and he gets hit by, or it gets hit by a stray bullet, what was the energy that they were resonating or exuding which would cause that to happen? Let's say like a 1 or a 2-year-old, like any example that we can bring up.
Yeah, that'd be freaky. That'd be freaky because it could be like somebody related to that child, like somebody with a close relation to the child. They could have did some bullshit, and this is God allowing for some bullshit to happen into their life.
Yeah, but wouldn't that be a violation of Ezekiel 18 and Deuteronomy 24 and 16, where no man can die for another man's sins? You see what I'm saying?
I got something to say on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think it's a violation. Our entire curse, if you look at it that way, our entire curse as a people would be a violation of that. And it's not. And we know that to be the case.
Right. But
between you and no Israelite on this call worship Moloch, put up any statues or offered our children up to that guy. We didn't do that shit back then. We weren't the ones who did the golden calf.
But we still do it now.
Yeah, but we were born under the curse, yeah? So what was our thing before?
We know better and we still doing it now.
No, I get you with that. But you're sidestepping what I'm asking. We were born under it. What did we do then?
Continue the behaviors of your ancestors by continuing to do the behaviors. You see, that's what it's.
All right, let's say we live differently. Let's say a few of us live differently, Vin. Would that have changed the general situation our people are in?
No, because the majority of our people are doing it. It's about the majority.
Cool. So in that event, let's just say I've been righteous my whole life. But because I live in a country of wicked niggas, I can go outside and I can get a stray shot. Yeah?
Could happen.
I see the same thing with the baby. because of the wickedness that we allow. All right, let me give you another example of the way I think about it and something that bothers me personally. Whenever you touch on the adrenochrome topic, I try to, avoid it because it bothers me deeply. Because I'm here thinking, why, what's the word? What we are do, pay make something like that go on in the world, and we know it go on, and we're not doing nothing. You understand? So it bothers me like that. And then when you understand what Torah really says, because we fell off, make people like that rise to that level where it's now a whole mass global factory doing this kind of shit. So it's bothersome. And then when you think about what did those kids do wrong, they didn't do anything wrong. We were the ones who did something wrong. So I think it goes back to that. That's my perspective anyway.
Right. No, I get you. I'll say myself. Maybe it's beyond my ability to understand. Those are like strings that the Most High will see the reasoning or the rhyme to the reason behind it. But for me personally, I haven't been able to rectify that particular situation, right? So like attracts like. What would an innocent child or somebody innocent, again, just to bring the situation up, what would they have done to attract that type of behavior? And I get your analogy as well as like, hey, we came after the fact. But again, like a 1-year-old child or even a 2-year-old child, they really don't have the opportunity to continue in the sins of their forefathers. They're like, what time does a 1-year or 2-year-old have? Like, this nigga just learned to walk. How much bad could they possibly do?
Man, that's what I was trying to say. Just the fact that they're that clean or that pure or that close to Ka, that what could be attracting some negative energy as well. Because ain't that just when bullshit people start coming into people's lives and they start making changes and doing good for themselves, and bullshit motherfuckers come in.
Right, but that's the thing. Is that like a test? Is that the Most High doing that? Because what did Job do to deserve half of the bullshit that he had to face?
Exactly.
I get what you're saying, but I'm also just playing the devil's advocate for a change. Usually I don't do that. But I'm playing devil's advocate for a change just to show you the type of conundrums that you're going to have in conversations like these. People will make that argument. And we have to understand how to deal with it according to at least what the book shows us. My brother that was speaking from the islands, I 100% agree with you. Don't get it twisted. I agree with you, but it's how do you explain that to somebody and get them to understand who doesn't agree with the perception or the perspective? There's got to be an easy way to go about doing it. I just haven't found it yet.
That's usually where atheists get me, actually, to be honest with you. And that has been the case since I was a Christian. That has been their thing. That has been their issue with God.
And you know what this stems back to? A predetermination and free will. I've been able to work it out that both can exist. It's just a matter of perspective. So from God's perspective, it's already preordained because he's outside of the space-time continuum. Everything's already happened from God's celestial perspective. But when you're inside the time-space continuum living it, everything appears as if you're doing it for the first time. Taking that understanding now and applying it to this so-called law of attraction and this law of awareness, I haven't been able to make the jump just yet. Maybe this conversation, by the time we're done with it, I'll be able to. But me personally, I haven't been able to reach that explanation for people. I just want to push you guys to the boundaries of either side. It doesn't matter. For me, it's just trying to figure it out. Anyway, it's 0 or 1 in my brain. I'd say the two of you guys posed really good points. And then hopefully by the time we're done with the video, we can nail down one for certain. But did anybody else want to chime in so far? I'm gonna continue reading it.
One quick question before you go. Maybe this can help us to gain understanding. So outside of looking at it from our people's perspective, let's look at it from our enemy's perspective. Remember, it's slated that their kids will die too. They will be dashed to pieces, torn. What did those kids do?
Right. Well, I would say, all right, so my argument for that would be like Jeremiah 16 and 19, right? What's going on now and increasingly in the future when all the, the non-humans, and the heathen nations, right? The heathen of Adam, they're all going to sit around and realize, oh, fuck, We've been treating God children like shit the entire time. And then we've inherited lies. So they're going to be punished because they've inherited the lies or continued the fallible behavior of their ancestors in the same way that we did. You know, it's only fair that the other nations get punished like we did. We've continued in the ways in ignorance, but still we've continued in the ways of our ancestors in terms of violating Deuteronomy 28 and the contract of it. So in the same sense, those people's children have to face the same type of fire and bulla because they're continuing the behaviors of their forefathers. And they've had enough time to stop. I mean, I would say collectively as a nation, like 500 years, 600 years, that's enough time to realize you're a piece of shit. Like, you know, but I still just, with, again, not to harp on it, but like with the example of the 1-year-old child, like, how much time did they even have to develop an understanding of right and wrong? And then I think of it this way. Maybe God removed that particular spirit off the face of the earth, with the intention of inspiring somebody or a few people else who are already in the world. Like these are questions that I can't answer with for certainty because I'm not God. I'm not seeing from those higher planes. It's just about trying to work out what the possibilities are, like what's going on in God's mind as he's allowing certain parts of a script to play out and allowing it to happen the way he does. Like, look at what happened to Samson. Like, that's fucked up. Dude was a good dude, right? Ends up losing his fucking hair, his fucking eyeballs, gets crushed. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? Maybe I'm forgetting certain details of why he ended up getting done that way, but yeah. All right. Does anybody else have any commentary so far? All right. Shit, we may end up having to do another part 4 of this tomorrow, but we'll see. So let me just finish this out, right? So A, one attracts from the outside what they resonate with on the inside. B, one attracts what one momentarily strongly focuses on. C, like attracts like. Still, somehow, negative possibilities manifest when we least expect them. Anticipation prevents or mitigates them from happening. Okay, so maybe we're going to get into this whole discussion of what we were talking about. Question: how can focusing on negative possibilities attract them in one case and prevent them in another? I'll let some of you guys get a gander at that before we read any further. So I'll read it one more time, the question. How can focusing on negative possibilities attract them in one case and also prevent them in another? So this is paradox number 1 in the law of attraction.
I would say it's more so you're looking at a situation in totality, or you're trying to have some type of foresight in regards to whatever situation or whatever environment that you're currently in, or whatever you might be experiencing or may possibly experience. But you don't, I guess, dwell on one side too much, which can obviously help you, I guess, in not doing what you're not supposed to do to bring that about. So I guess it's like you're weighing up a scale within your mind, what to do and what not to do.
Okay, I got you.
I know that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a tough one to answer. So I was gonna say again. So, like, what is it about intention and focus on the negative, which I guess doesn't give you a certain outcome? Because you could not focus on the negative and get blindsided by it, or you can focus on the negative and attract it. What is the
take a shot at that,
formula or equation? Yep, go ahead.
So if you know of the negative, knowing the negative, but then focusing on the positive.
Okay. But what about focusing? Oh, my bad. I thought you were done. Go ahead. My fault.
No. Yeah, I'm done. Go ahead.
All right, so I was going to say, keep in mind. So what the question is, right? How can focusing on the negative possibilities both attract them and prevent them in another context?
Intention.
I
By
got one. I think, uh, say like the financial collapse, we focus on it. It's the negative possibilities, we're attracting it, but then we figure out their plans, so they kind of stop doing what they were doing and move on to another scheme.
Let me see. I don't want to say that's not well, no, I can't.
Let me try,
Let me
man.
hold on
Let
it.
me get you.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Yep.
You basically just gotta play chess in your head with whatever the situation or problem is.
All right, go ahead. Go deeper though. Yeah, give me some more. Yeah, give me some more
You
sense.
gotta know whether or not you finna move your motherfucking pawn or your brook or your knight or your what. How you finna move it, like, so you know all possible outcomes, just like the shit we've been talking about on all these videos, basically. But you gotta think it out. I guess it would be however far you can think ahead or think into it. Then I guess that's gonna be however far it can really get. I guess in a way, or you get what I'm
Agreed,
trying to say.
Cam, agreed.
All right. Anybody else?
But then that way, you,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Cam.
so that way you attract the problem with like already pre-made
Solutions.
ways to tackle it.
Yep, I got you. I got you.
Yeah, that was my take as well. So you can prepare for like the end like wilderness, for example. A lot of focus going into learning stuff and preparing for a time where we won't have access to the basic necessities. So I guess in that way, focusing on that negative, we can prevent it at the same time. That's how I see.
Okay, now let me ask one more question before I read on further, right? So for instance, right, with the prophecies in the book for the end times, do you guys think that it matters whether we focus on the bad things that are going to happen or not if it's already scheduled to happen? How can we stop it from happening if it's already written?
You can.
You can.
Yeah, we just learn how to deal with it as best we can.
All right, choose sides.
We can anticipate.
Okay, but that
we can anticipate, but I think at the same time too, if fear comes into the equation, there are certain things that obviously that are outlined in the prophecies or things that are to come might land upon us. So I think we can still focus on it, but I think the fear is the next little part of the equation. Whether we fear it or we don't, whether we fear it or we do not fear it,
Yeah, I was saying I think it's Terminator 2 when they figured out that you can't stop Judgment Day. It was just to survive it.
Right. Right.
Right. I think that's why that's what we can do. I mean, it be just a talk from my perspective anyway, but I think that's what we can do. Just prepare for it so we can survive it.
Shoot, that's what I have written up here. So when I was in the mode, when I was writing this in the red, that's what it has. Look, still somehow negative possibilities manifest when we least expect them. Anticipation prevents or mitigates them from happening. Right. So that was the lead up to the question. So we ended up agreeing anyway. So this is why I was questioning you guys and trying to do the whole devil's advocate thing. So that just lets me know that the thing I have written right above it is on track. So everybody managed to kind of coalesce into that understanding. So I'm on point with what I wrote so far. All right, good. So look. What is this? Blank. Look for typical cases and find the common rules that accounts for them all. Okay, so look, by pondering what they all have in common, the possibilities, and how they all differ, it is possible to piece together a common principle. So all of the possible outcomes of a 0 and 1 decision in any given moment. If you can analyze all of them on your Doctor Strange shit and be able to cross compare, same way you guys see me doing with books, right? I'll buy like 20 books on a subject matter, and then I'll read all of them, and then I'll cross compare the conclusions, the notes, and all the information, and then I'll come to a common lesson plan or principle, if you will. It's the same concept. Awareness, anticipation, and conscious attention select or block possibilities. It's important to understand that. So you can only bring into your sphere what you're aware of to a certain degree. And then you have emotional resonance or root assumptions, subconscious beliefs that attract these things. So sometimes it's not the conscious mind which attracts it, it's the subconscious mind which attracts it. And then we already got done saying in the last episode that the subconscious mind is akin to the junk DNA, and the junk DNA is akin to the soul. And if the soul is operating multidimensionally and your higher self, so to speak, is this soul that is perfectly aware of all opportunities and possibilities, maybe that higher self or quote unquote guardian angel is what's communicating to you through the emotional resonance or the subconscious, and then trying to bring about the awareness through the conscious mind.
Would that be a gut feeling?
I guess you can say that, sure. Your intuition.
You're like intuition.
So if you want the intuition that works, not the intuition that happens after the fact.
Would that come into play with obviously predictive programming, and for those that obviously haven't learned or had enough awareness of how to override it, for those that obviously are sort of stuck, let's say, for a better lack of use of the word, in the matrix, those that get, I guess, the full victim to predictive programming, their subconscious obviously brings about the equations or the instances where they'll have negative consequences or negative experience.
Perhaps, yeah. And then also you got to remember with the predictive programming, they're conditioning you how to respond to emotionally jolting situation. So usually when somebody's hit with a situation that they've never experienced in their life, it's like deer in the headlights. They don't like the processing of the brain in the neocortex isn't able to go down as successfully because all the blood is flowing in the limbic brain where all the emotions and the fight or flight stimulus is going on. You can train somebody out of that situation by giving them experience. Like for somebody that's never been in a fight before or don't know how to fight, usually their head's down or their chin is all the way up in the air and they're leaning back because they're scared and they're just swinging. Or their head's down, they're not looking at the opponent and they just swinging. There's no awareness of the situation and what's going on because they're in fear. They're in fight or flight mode, right? There's no calculation. That's why somebody who boxes and practices combat or any type of combat for that matter, they've been inside the eye of the storm, get punched in the face or get hit in the face and understand how to respond to that moment. So boom, now take that to the example of predictive programming. When they put these things in TV shows, they not only condition the event that they're going to have happen that they've orchestrated, but they're also putting in how they want the people to respond. Everything that goes into predictive programming, including how the people in the fictional story are responding to the situation, those are the things that are going to be retrieved from the brain's subconscious memory banks when the situation happens in real life. That's the only thing that people have to draw on from an experiential standpoint. Otherwise, everybody's green behind the ears. Everybody's going to be a deer in headlights. It'll only be people like us who've been talking about these things, contemplating these things, and running trial and error drills in our minds and being given dreams about it, that when the shit happened, we're not going to be panicking like how everybody else is panicking, deer in the headlights. Well, hopefully that I stayed on topic with what I was trying to convey. Before we move on to the rest of it, this diagram of where thoughts come from, your negative influences or the positive influences. You can say your higher self if you want, or your guardian angel. I think those are one and the same thing, in my personal opinion. or the demons that are assigned to you in your life? Where are you getting the stimulation from? And if you're going to say, oh, well, it's not angels and demons, I don't deal with that. Okay, well, it's got to be TV, social media, the dominant culture, or religion, or some type of spiritual system. So where are you getting the stimulation from? Thought stimulation. Or you can say nature, but most people, they aren't spending too much time out in nature like that. It's about where you're getting the influence from, because nothing is new under the sun. We get back to what we're saying about here, what we're attracting, right? So this is a battle of awareness versus emotion, if you will, or prudence versus paranoia, or mental anticipation versus emotional investment. So one can be aware of a negative possibility while having zero emotional investment in it. One can be emotionally resonant with something while not focusing on it consciously. Awareness helps select possibilities of focus. Emotion attracts and anchors possibilities in place. So I'm going to read this one more time because this is key. Awareness, getting back to the double-blind split test and the collapsing of the probability wave field into a particle, or the collapsing of a possible reality into actuality. Awareness or observation helps to select possibilities of focus. So what you're aware of, or your awareness, is what you choose to focus on. And then your emotion attracts and anchors or roots that possibility in place. It's the same thing looking at it from Father Sky, Mother Earth for the New Agers. They can look at it that way, the same way. Awareness being the masculine principle, emotion being the feminine principle. Emotion being matter, awareness being the consciousness or the spirit or the soul or the mind. So positive manifestations outweigh the negatives. Negatives manifest as a matter of chance. Awareness of possibility or possibilities ensures one of two things. A, it blocks the negative manifestation, and B, it selects an exclusively better alternative. So this is why it's important to be consciously aware when you're in a situation, so that you can ensure that you block your focus from being negative. So that way the negative doesn't have a chance to even begin to manifest. And then also, while you're consciously avoiding the negative manifestations or 0 and 1 choices, you're also making sure to consciously select the exclusively better alternatives. So it's all a conscious effort at every stage of the moment that we call present, to be conscious of what 0 or 1 choice is being made, and being able to look way beyond the moves that are upcoming. So like looking 10 moves ahead. This is why Cam bringing up chess was a good example. Being able to see 5 moves ahead, 10 moves ahead, or however many moves ahead that you need to. It's better to do that than to get trapped in emotion. So this is what we'll deal with here. Negative manifestations or paranoia. What are the sources of it? Ego insecurity, paranoia itself, self-destructive beliefs, and fear. Failure to think about them in a strategically preventative manner, it gives them a wide berth to manifest. So if you don't contain these feelings, the ego insecurity, and deal with them, the paranoia, the self-destructive beliefs, the fear, it's exactly what Proverbs 17 and 22 is talking about. It's going to eat you up from the inside out. It's going to corrode you. It's going to eat up all your energy, all of your focus, all of your time. And it's not going to give anything back to you. It's a bottomless pit. It's a black hole. Negative attitudes resonate negative possibilities. Stay free of emotional preoccupation and obsession. Stop harping on the past and things which already happened. Stop harping on the negative possibilities which could happen. Just focus on the present and the right decisions that can give you exclusively better alternatives right now. And that builds on what I guess we can call momentum. It's like sports, again, using the sports analogy. One win at a time. Or if you don't have no wins, one half at a time. Win the first half of the game, win the second half. Or in basketball, win the first quarter. Then make sure you win the second quarter. But take it at incremental steps at a time, moment to moment, present to present. Resonating positivity is 90% of the focus. And prevention of the 10% is what you want to be aware of as well. So you want to be aware of the positive and the negative, but you want to give the awareness of the positive 90% of your attention. And you want to give the awareness of the negative 10% of your attention. You cannot ignore the negative because then you get blindsided, as we have here to the left. Negative possibility manifests when we least expect it. So like you guys were saying, it's best to survey the chessboard, play out as many opportunities as you can in your head, and make the most opportune step forward, the most logical step forward. Naive possibility of positivity accompanied by total ignorance of anything negative. That's what we want to avoid. So I'm going to say it again. Naive possibility of positivity accompanied by total ignorance of anything negative is what we want to avoid. It's better to be aware of the negative while keeping a positive attitude. So here are the counterparts that we're dealing with, right? As we wrap this up and get back into the documentary. The law of attraction is attracting resonant experiences. The law of awareness is the constriction of possible changes of experience. So again, getting back to the overall lesson that we were learning from the Terrence Howard reaction video. In this realm that we live in, it's a constant duality. It's a breathing in and a breathing out. It's a positive and a negative. It's a attracting and a radiating force, a constricting and a rejecting or repelling force. It's the same. It works the same way, same principle. This gets into what we were saying before in episode 2. Awareness selects, emotion attracts. When a quantum system is not observed, it stays in a fluid wave state spread across a spectrum of probabilities. So that's that pool or wave state that we're talking about in the dimensions above us that are swirling and intertwining and tangling together, right? Or untangling as we make decisions. Observation causes the wave field to collapse into a single existing state, or in other words, to materialize. So you have conscious observation of the probability wave field, which then causes the collapse of the possibility particle. So observing a quantum wave in the present collapses it into a definite state or state of existence. When people think bad thoughts so much, then bad things start to happen, like that type of cliche. Observing a wave still in the future merely constricts it a little, reducing its fluidity and interfering with its ability to manifest synchronistically in the present. So I'm going to read that one more time because that's key. Observing a wave or concentrating, thinking, contemplating on the negative or just on any particular outcome, which is a wave, right? It's not here yet, which is still in the future, merely constrict. It stops it a little bit, reduces its fluidity, and interferes with its ability to manifest in the present. So synchronicity is how the future becomes the present through quantum processes. Awareness blocks, filters, and selects. It freezes the possible, probable future and then brings it down into the present, like locking it into a block of ice, in other words. Internal resonance attracts corresponding probable futures. Conscious awareness decreases quantum fluidity. Subconscious attraction increases the pressure behind quantum fluidity, therefore heightening synchronistic manifestation. So, to put it simply, if you are not in control of your emotions, in control of your subconscious thoughts, then your subconscious thoughts have more of a constricting or attracting ability. So it will pull the things which you are subconsciously or deeply rooted to towards you. Like attracts like. That's why it's important to be consciously aware of what you are in tune with, what you are bringing inside the body so that the subconscious absorbs. The subconscious absorbs everything. It's up to the conscious mind to filter what you allow the subconscious to bring inside of you. So to top it off, conscious equals constriction, subconscious equals attraction. Or in other words, conscious equals particle, subconscious equals wave. What are you guys' thoughts? I know I read a lot before I let you guys chime in. But what are you guys' thoughts on what was said?
It's some good. It's some good. Like you damn near basically explaining meditation type shit, or like, oh yeah, type shit.
All right.
Some good.
So in a way, like, so when we manifest negative thoughts, will we be manifesting demons?
You could say demonic intentions. I wouldn't say demons literally, but I would say demonic intention. So when, like for instance, when you're thinking a certain way or behaving a certain way that is negative according to the scriptures, then you would more than likely manifesting the intentions of the demonic entity which is influencing or throwing that influence at you. It's like back to this diagram here. No thoughts are new, and no thoughts are truly anybody's own thoughts per se. They come from either a higher or a lower source. It's about where it come from. Where's the inspiration from? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I've always wondered, when you imagine a thing, is it made up or is it constricted or limited by what's available in the realm that deals with the possibilities?
From what I understand, the human brain really just remixes everything that we've seen in some way, shape, or form. You know, it's like building blocks. If you watch kids with Legos, you know, they'll tell you, look what I created. And then they'll create something, but really there's an inspiration behind it. You see what I'm saying? That they've either seen or witnessed or what have you, which I guess would go along with nothing is new under the sun.
Understand. Right. Now, why I said that is to go back to the thinking too much negative thoughts can cause it to happen kind of mindset. Think about the people, especially in the US, based on what I see, the 2A community, the gun lovers. Their thing is usually always preparing for a home invasion. Like they're constantly paranoid about a home invasion. Right? Now, they're thinking about it to be prepared for it. But does that constant paranoia of home invasion, can that cause it to happen? So can they overdo it, in other words?
Right. Sure. I mean, I would, that could be possible. Like when you say overdo it, do you mean talk about it all the time or think about it all the time?
Thinking.
Let's just say that type of person, right? Perhaps they could attract that type of stuff to them. Yeah, maybe. Or likely, I should say, not maybe, but likely. But what I would say with my experience from people in the 2A community is it's not really a matter of them thinking about it all the time. It's just a matter of, okay, how do I best prepare for this situation? And then that's it. And then you have others on social media who they make a living out of it. So they, you know, they'll take their kids and they'll do drill runs every day to make sure they get it down packed. So it's like, all right, if I don't practice this information enough, then if the situation really happens, I'm not going to be ready. And then it's like, okay, if I'm practicing for this situation every day, am I putting the energy out there to bring it to me? I'm not sure how to answer that one, boss. To be sure.
No, I would say no, because it's people that's putting their whole life into trying to become professional sports players, and they don't become professional sports players, or like trying to become professional actors and they don't become professional actors. They try to do everything they can to get auditions or like put themselves in front of scouts and do everything they can to be in that position and still don't even be in that position. So I don't know. That's it freaky.
Right. Yep, that I can relate to that one a lot.
True. Same here.
But I guess we're still stuck on the conundrum so far. No solution so far. But at least for me on my end. But yeah, so let's get back into the doc then.
Thoughts can do that to water. Imagine what our thoughts can do to us.
One of the most interesting experiments with random event generators occurred when One of the most interesting experiments with random event generators occurred when it was really out of time. Some of the Princeton investigators and some of the other ones decided that they would try to see whether or not you could affect a random machine after it had run. So they converted it, instead of having a computer with a visual screen, they had a computerized situation that was audio tapes. And they had it with clicks in the left ear and clicks in the right ear. And they already played this with nobody listening to it, so that it already ran. They put that in a vault, and they then gave the tape, the already run tape, to a participant and said, take it home, I want you to listen to it, and I want you to make more left ear clicks than right ear clicks with it. Send your intention to it. So the person did. They handed back the tape, and they played it, and lo and behold, and they played the one in the vault too, and they discovered that they were both the same, and they both had more left clicks than right clicks. So what was going on here? Well, it wasn't as though the person who was the participant had actually affected it at the moment he was listening to it. His thoughts and his attention had moved back down the timeline and affected it at the moment it was generated.
Most people don't affect.
Talking about is the illusion of time travel by way of quantum entanglement. And the introduction to both of these concepts by way of conscious awareness or conscious intention, right? Everything we were talking about in the law of attraction stuff, right? Let's go.
Affect reality in a consistent, substantial way because they don't believe they can.
Whatever way we observe the world around us is what comes back to us. And the reason why my life, for instance, is so lacking in joy and happiness and fulfillment is because my focus is lacking in those same things exactly. If we're victims, we should ask ourselves, have I a victim mentality? If I'm continually meeting misfortunes and accidents and tragedies, maybe it's because my mentality is basically attuned to accepting that this is the way life is, and so it happens. Now, why can I not achieve those things? Fundamentally through lack of focus.
The average person.
All right, so I'm going to stop it there because what he said has a lot to do with our people, the children of Israel. Why are we in the predicament we're in? Lack of focus. God told us to focus on him and the instructions that are given. And in Exodus 1.0, niggas like, oh, nah. Moses, you go do that. Moses went and did it, brought up the laws, came down 40 days later. Niggas is acting out of pocket. And then for the preceding 2,000 to 2,500 years after that moment, we've continued to do fuck shit. At what point are we going to become consciously aware of what we are attracting to us based off of the contract which is written in Deuteronomy 28? Cause and effect. That's essentially what Deuteronomy 28 is. Gifts and curses. And then he outlines every cause and every effect related to the cause. Cause being human action. It doesn't, it's like once you start looking at it, Deuteronomy 28 is a book of fifth dimensional mastery, teaching us how to operate within the earth realm and master our decisions by being able to receive the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, the feminine principles, which is the architecture of creation, of the physical realm. How best to understand how to deal in the physical realm than to understand the physical realms and the principles and algorithms that operate within it and cause it to function. Now, if you're going to go about and be purposely ignorant and continue to be ignorant, then why are you going to expect a different situation? Being stuck on stupid for 2,500 years is crazy. That's crazy. So I'm going to let him play it again, right?
I don't believe they can.
Whatever way we observe the world.
I don't believe they can.
Whatever way we observe.
Listen to this part. This is the critical part.
Whatever way we observe the world around us is what comes back to us.
Whatever way we observe the world is usually what comes back to us, this law of attraction that we're talking about. God gave us the precedent for the law of attraction pertaining to the children of Israel, us and our ancestors, in Deuteronomy 28. He gave us a series of do's and a series of don'ts. And each set, do's and don'ts, have a particular set of attractions that come with them, depending on your intention and conscious focus.
And the reason why my life, for instance, is so lacking in joy and happiness and fulfillment is because my focus is lacking in those same things.
The reason why the children of Israel are in the predicament we're in the black social status, secondary social status, is because our focus and awareness is on the wrong shit. We're too busy trying to figure out how to be successful in the enemy system whilst in captivity, instead of learning the lessons we're supposed to learn from the captivity. So that way we can stop being in the captivity. If you're stuck on stupid shit gonna continue to happen. And that's what our people do collectively. Stay stuck on stupid, always whining and complaining. Oh, the white man this, the white man that, or the Asian man this, the Latinos that. At what point are we gonna say, all right, let's look in the mirror and see why it is these situations are being attracted to us? Except the mirror that we're supposed to be looking at is the Torah Tanakh, the ultimate book of self-reflection. And then once we clean up what's going on inside of us, right, our disconnection with our God, then we'll realize, oh, snap, we're supposed to be focusing on our God, right? That's what we're really supposed to be focusing on, not the situation that we're in. God put us in this situation to force our hand so that we start paying him attention. Getting back to the Zenith lesson up here. What a lonely existence to be alone. What a disrespectful existence to ignore the presence of one's maker. For Yah Almighty has created all things for his glory. Without man, how can Yah get his validation and praise? Without the children of Israel acting as the representative branch of the human family, to act as an example and a representative, an ambassador of our God to the other nations, Maybe we might want to look and see what's going on in the book, which would then show us what we actually look like to God. And then maybe we have an opportunity, if God blesses us, to clean up, get our Ezekiel 18 on. So that way we can get our Ezekiel 37 on. You know, getting the sinews back together, getting these dry bones back together. Let's go.
If we're victims, we should ask ourselves, have I a victim mentality? If I'm continually meeting misfortunes and accidents and tragedies, maybe it's because my mentality is basically attuned to accepting that this is the way life is. And
this is black people's current predicament right now. Niggas refuse to read Deuteronomy 28, even though there's niggas in street corners screaming it at these niggas for decades. These niggas will refuse to go check it out themselves. They rather continue to whine and complain about the white man instead of stop worshiping the white man's God, whether that be his religious systems or whether that be his money or whether that be the social benefits that he offers with his so-called civilization. They just can't stop. They on Diddy time. Can't stop, won't stop.
Can't stop, won't stop.
so it happens. Now, why can I not achieve those things? Fundamentally through lack of focus.
Now, why can't we achieve the things that we want to do as a people? Fundamentally through the lack of focus in the context of our predicament. We turned our back on our God, so our God turned his back on us. As soon as we're ready to face up to our God, he'll be ready to face up to us again. Like in Exodus 1.1.0, we'll get a redo.
The average person loses their attention span every 6 to 10 seconds per minute.
The average Hebrew Israelite loses his ability to want to unify and come back to God every new nigga that get killed. Every new nigga that get killed saw the we black and let's unify together, and then a couple days later, they forget. Then another nigga get killed. Let's get together. Let's rebel. And then niggas forget. Go into sleepy mode. Then another nigga get killed, and so on and so forth. I feel like this documentary, he's speaking to us for some reason in this episode, but.
One wants to focus, intent. You want to be a singleness of mind. That's why.
You want to be a singleness of mind. The Most High God telling us that he wants us to call on him in one voice and in one accord, of one sound mind, of one intention, of one objective moral principle. Right? Let's go.
Some of the old occult teachings teach people to focus on a flame, a match flame, in fact, so that you learn to bring your attention into a very sharp channel so that the energy density becomes greater.
Perhaps this is why the Most High chose to reveal himself through the burning bush. A fire to keep his attention, but also representing the eminence of the Creator, the non-form of the Creator, or the lacking of form, which is associated with the eternal mind, the ever-changing licks of a flame. No part of the flame is ever the same. It's always a new lick, new angle, new plasma formation, if you will. So the formless one, the Creator, the Most High, when he or it enters into the physical realm, it still is formless. So it assumes the highest form of material expression possible, which is plasma. And the irony of it all is throughout the scriptures, the Creator is compared to thunder, lightning, and fire. All plasma.
The mind is structured in layers, just like the universe is structured in.
Energy density becomes greater.
The mind is structured in layers, just like the universe is structured in layers, from superficial to profound. And if we use the mind at a very superficial level of ordinary thought, we have very limited power. We can barely move a speck of dust across a tabletop. without using our hands. So weak can consciousness be. But at the deepest level of consciousness, consciousness creates universes.
But we always wonder, man, don't we?
All right. So that last part is indicative of, reminds me of the concept that we were speaking on in terms of the levels of quantum observership. Let me just play it back one more time.
Mind is structured in layers, just like the universe is structured in layers, from superficial to profound. And if we use the mind at a very superficial level of ordinary thought, we have very limited power. We can barely move a speck of dust across a tabletop without using our hands. So weak can consciousness be. But at the deepest level of consciousness, consciousness creates universes.
All right. So what he's saying is being reflected in the diagram here. The consciousness that's so weak that it can't even attract dust to form something with just intention would be man, right? It takes action, actual physical labor. But the mind, which is responsible for the construction of something as complex as the universe that man lives in, is 2 tiers above. So you have man at the lowest, then you have angels, then you have God himself or itself.
We always wonder, man, don't we? When we wish for all of those, to be able to heal with the touch and to raise the dead and to manifest a loaf of bread in our hand. And we always wonder why we can't do that, but we can never ask a question that we don't already know the answer to. And the answer is because we don't believe we could do it, and it interferes with our agenda of our own personal addictions that define us. We have never had enough time to care for anyone else other than our own emotional addictive needs.
Now, let me ask you guys, do you agree with her? Do you want me to play it again so you guys can hear it?
Yeah.
We always wonder, man, don't we? When we wish for all of those, to be able to heal with the touch and to raise the dead and to manifest a loaf of bread in our hand. And we always wonder why we can't do that, but we can never ask a question that we don't already know the answer to. And the answer is because we don't believe we could do it, and it interferes with our agenda of our own personal addictions that define us. We have never had enough time to care for anyone else other than our own emotional addictive needs.
All right. So how do you guys feel about what she said there?
I agree with her.
I think in a sense kind of goes to with great power comes great responsibility, and we just have the natural ability to abuse that. That's a common problem that we run into.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna give a personal story actually that touch on to what she said. So well, without getting too personal, I've been job searching for some time now, and I went on a fast, and during the fast I specifically stated clear, like basically like me I order God for do a thing specific down to the T what I want him to do for me, zine. And about a week after the fast, it happened to the T. Even my woman was, surprised. Myself was surprised. However, it didn't turn out the way I wanted to because the days leading up to it, because I thought it was gonna happen at the very end of the fast or during the fast. But the days leading up to it, there was less and less faith it was going to happen. So I say again.
Said that the intention started to wane a bit. You're like, is this gonna happen? Yeah, I get you.
So when it arrived, it wasn't a full package. So I believe what she said because I literally created my reality, but because I was doubtful or became doubtful, it didn't pan out. It was incomplete.
Right. It didn't completely collapse out of the wave field the way that you intended. I get you. I get you. All right, nice. All right. There was a few other people that I think wanted to chime in.
I have a question. I was gonna say I agree with her, but like you know how people will say you're being delusional. Like, where do you draw the line in believing that anything is possible if you really, really believe it? You can will it to yourself or manifest or whatever with like reality and some things that just aren't physically possible. Like, where do you draw the line, or is delusion only a thing um of people that don't believe it's possible?
See, that's tough. All right. So like the universal constant. So like what like for instance, if somebody said, if I believe I could fly, I can. Like I understand the degree of the notion that they're expressing, but I'm not going to be the first one to walk with you up to wherever you finna jump off of to test that theory out. You know what I mean? The possibility probability spectrum dictates, and this is exactly what this woman is saying, and maybe this is why, man can't fly on his own because we don't perceive it to be possible. Once it's perceived to be possible, then, and it's accomplished, then it's like, why didn't we think it was possible before? Like, look at the Wright brothers, you know what I mean? And the airplane. Like niggas is riding horseback just like 100 years before that. For them to go or 200 years before, 150 years, something like that. For them to go as quickly as they went from horseback to flying planes, you know, um, that thought had to start out as an absolutely ridiculous notion. They probably working on their shit in their barnyard and everybody, they telling niggas what they doing, and niggas is probably like, these niggas thinking they birds and shit. I ain't never seen a man fly in my life. And then boom, it happened. Right? Wright brothers created an airplane, and then now this is a normalcy. Man take flight like bird. But let me get out now. I'm filibustering. To answer your question, my degree of limitation would be, like I said, the rules of physics. So within the rules of physics, anything is possible to a degree. So like I'll go with the extreme as flying. I'm probably assuming that's not the example you want to use, but maybe something like starting a business or owning a company or having a multi-million-dollar company. I don't see why that would be delusional, from the vantage point that I'm at. I can see why people can say it's delusional, but them niggas is just haters. So
I was just saying that, well, thinking that I tend to disagree with what she's saying because I feel like if we had the ability to manifest um, things out of our own mind power, I feel like it would take away our need to humble ourselves and ask Yah for permission or um, the ask for our blessings and our permissions and earn them. And we're not supposed to be just doing it on our own. And I feel like in scripture, the individuals that were given those powers and the ability to perform miracles were the highest of the high, the most righteous, the prophets and the kings. And so it shouldn't be something that is just um yeah, I feel like it's not something that we're supposed to just think we can do because we can manifest on our own. Or I don't know if I'm like being clear, but
no, I agree with you. Well, very well said. That is agreed. This do as thou wilt, and anything I think of I can achieve. Sure, I get you to that degree as well.
I think you're talking about me. To the first girl, sorry, to the first woman that spoke. Her comment was, what was it that dictates um the well, I can't remember exactly how it was phrased, but I think something that we should all take into consideration is what we're told to do and what to use. when getting into the idea of floating off into fantasy land and just saying, I feel, I believe this is possible, which is another level of belief, is actually doing as we're told, which is using logic and reason. Um, right. So there, yeah, we can all say that yes, it is a possibility. I'm even a believer in the idea that yes, the possibility of flight is something that can happen. But reason and logic would say that, or would show the evidence that right now, the current state, we're not in a position to even entertain those. So for the ones that's believing, and much like the woman in the video which you played, she used a very key word, which is believe. A lot of this goes in the idea of believing into something, believing into things that we shouldn't believe in, which a lot of it, much like you said, and I agree with a lot, if not all of your stance on this topic, by the way, Vin. But the idea of believing into other things other than reason or logic, or other than reality, other than all these other things that's there, because they're all there, they all exist within, much like you said, within the same, they all exist, they're there. And when you're talking about, awareness, yes, be aware of all these things being there, be aware of all these options, all these possibilities, but believing into one is believing into something other than what we're told to do. What we're supposed to be aware of all of it, right? And your awareness of it will eventually just dictate what is the truth and the path you should go. A lot of it seems to be a removal of worldly influence. An example of that could be, let's say, I don't know how many people live in cities, for example, but you live in cities, you will realize how loud it is. You hear traffic, you'll hear the speech of others. But in all actuality, nature is just as loud. It's just the focus is not there. And this is in real time. This is reality. So if you just focus on something other than, let's say, those things, you will start hearing things such as, and let's say you focus on nature, you'll see how much louder in actuality nature really is, because you'll start hearing the birds. Like, oh, these birds are there. You start hearing one. You're focusing on it. It becomes a whole symphony. Then you're like, oh, there's a lot of trees there. Oh, there's an abundance of trees. You see the green. Then you realize air is around. So you can just even use the elements, which nature, for example, and see how much louder or just how much on par it is with everything else. But it's just a focus of what people choose to focus on and leave into things. Right? So
Having a conversation in the city, and not, everybody's having a conversation around you, and or people are having a conversation around you while you're having your own personal conversation, and then you've got the noise in the background. You hear all of it, but the brain selectively chooses what it wants to be aware of, and then ignores all the background noise and treats it, all of it, as background noise. You know what I mean? So yeah, so in the same way that our brain works to kind of tune out sounds that we want to focus on, and kind of mute them, or turn the volume down, so to speak, so that you can focus on what's going on in front of you. I was gonna say, for some reason, it reminds me of like when black people turn the radio down so they could see better. Like, yeah, all right, my brother, go ahead, or my sister, go ahead. You can go ahead.
Hello, good night. Chef Young here. I want to tell a story, a personal story. Given what you guys are talking about collapsing possibilities and things into your life. All right, so when I left school, I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a chef. So I went and I applied, right? And when I went there, they said that it was full, but they gave me a small paper to come back. But it took me 3 years. I didn't go back until 3 years. I was there, and every time I was cleaning up my stuff, I didn't throw away the paper. I just kept the paper. And then one day, me and my friend was walking, and I said, "Hey, let's go up to the school." And I went there, and I brought the paper with me. And when I went there, they say, "Why didn't you come back?" And I said, "You guys were full." And they said, no, if you had come, you would have gotten through. And then right there and then they said to me, are you available now for an interview? And I said, yes. And I did the interview right there. And then I got through the interview and then I started school the following week. So the fact that I, all those years, I didn't throw away the paper because I believe and I knew what I wanted to do before I left school. And that was still in the back of my mind. It still worked out for me even 3 years after.
You kept that possibility, probability wave alive. You know what I mean? You
Yes, I
kept
did.
it alive for the right moment. And for whatever reason, God have you retrieve it whenever you decided to retrieve it, and boom, it happened the way it happened. That's actually good. Good example. I appreciate that. That actually reminds me of my own thing. Like how I started doing the reading the brainwaves thing. Like that, I didn't know about that shit before college or even coming out. Like I was a regular nigga doing stock after I came back from college. I was like, yo, what the fuck is going on, nigga? Getting paid what, like $10, $11 an hour, if that. So I was highly fucking pissed and confused. You know, I asked God to, you know, like help a nigga out, man. Like, what the fuck, dog? And then, yo, shit you not, 2 weeks later or something like that, about 2 weeks later, my cousin Ryan called, and you know, I hadn't spoken to Ryan since I was like 12, and I was like 22 or 23 or something like that. It's about 10, 11 years since I spoke to this nigga, and Ryan just hit me up, was like, yo, Regent, I hear you're doing some bullshit. Swing by this way, Ray. And then, you know, the rest was history. You see what I'm saying? So it's just like, you know, you ask God for help and then just be aware of the situation that you're in or the moment that you're in and try to put your best foot forward. You know what I mean? Like I could have went in there and not took the opportunity. I could have not responded to the text message. I could have not did a million things, but for whatever reason, God had it play out the way it played out, and then I was able to benefit. So let's get back into it. And then I'm going to do 30 minutes more of the actual video itself or recording because we're already on 2 hours recording time. And then we'll do a part 4 tomorrow where we end out the last bit of it. But let's go.
Hey, how was the shoot? Solid.
That bitch dancing with no rhythm.
Your boss called. He's worried about you. Amanda, I want to thank you for letting me stay here. I know I'm a bit much sometimes and that it's been tough after Bob and all. And you've just been so wonderful. I mean, I make a mess and, well, I clean up afterwards, but it's not.
This bitch is like, man, I am mute. Boy, do I wish I was deaf, man. Shut the fuck up, bitch.
Not really your style.
Sometimes I think you make me insane.
Me?
Why she sound Chinese? Look, sometimes you making me saying like this.
Sometimes I think you make me insane.
Me? The day I make someone sane, they're in trouble. Anyway, I made you something as a thank you gift. Open it. I went through your pictures and picked my favorite ones. And it took me forever because there's so many good ones. This. That's for all the wonderful photos you will be taking. Oh.
I've had a strange day. Thank you.
Why are we here?
If thoughts can do that to water, imagine what our thoughts can do to us.
What thoughts are made of? Is there a substance of thought?
All right, so you see this scene that's going on here. This is an example of 100th monkey law on the smallest scale. So when new information is introduced into the psyche of the individual, it's also introduced into the collective field which the brain tunes into. This is called the Schumann's resonance, if you will. So that's that 7.23 hertz, I think it is, or whatever the frequency is, I'm forgetting exactly. But Schumann's resonance not only affects the Earth's ionosphere or firmament, but it also affects the magnetic field around the brain. This new information, now that it's circulating inside of this electric system that we call the Schumann resonance, other people, other human beings, which then reach that level of contemplation on the issue, will be able to retrieve that information or that inspiration, if you want to call it. Okay? There's a reason why people will come up with common ideas all around the same time. Like those of us that were doing the geocentric flat earth thing, like there was a few of us doing it all at the same time. It wasn't just one person. You see what I'm saying? It was like, whatever reason, God turned on the switch in a selective fused brain back in like 2011, 12 and them times. And then from there, you've seen the 100th monkey law process extend exponentially. I'm not saying that everybody has accepted it now, but the information and the contemplation of the information is now taking place. And now you're seeing the culmination of the conversation taking place with people collectively settling on a conclusion once they see both halves, both the 0 and the 1, and giving it a honest, clear inspection, right? You see the tide kind of turning now.
Why are we here?
If thoughts can do that to water, imagine what our thoughts can do to us.
What thoughts are made of? Is there a substance of thought?
This is a dream that I'm dreaming. Just as in a dream, you dream different characters can emerge and come out to you and talk to you and meet you and so forth. It's possible to go to another level of dreaming where you can become each of the characters that you dream.
Go backward and forward in time.
All right, so this is an example of what we were talking about with the fifth dimension. Being able to experience different 0 and 1 options for a particular moment simultaneously. It's like being able to partake in every flavor and every combination of cone or non-cup and sprinkle and chocolate and drizzle and fucking whatever. It's like being able to experience it all at once simultaneously and then deciding on the actual one that you want to have be a part of, you know, your threaded life chain of 0 and 1 decisions. So imagine being able to be a professional athlete, a doctor, the world's best bank robber, the president, and a few other ridiculous options. And being able to do it all at once and have all the experiences of those things simultaneously before you decide which one you actually going to settle on. That's the only way I can describe it for right now. As we move forward, maybe I'll get some better analogies that come to brain, but it's the best one I can think of now.
Time is relative. Goes backwards in time, and then forward in time. Time was not absolute. Information.
Time reversal symmetry.
Of course, we can go backward and forward in time.
Occurred
Are
when it was
all realities in the quantum field existing simultaneously?
The actual event of experience.
There literally are different worlds in which we live. There's the macroscopic world that we see. There's the world of our cells. There's the world of our atoms. There's the world of our nuclei. These are each totally different worlds. They have their own language. They have their own mathematics. They're not just small. Each is totally different, but they're complementary. Because I am my atoms, but I am also my cells. I'm also my macroscopic physiology. It's all true. They're just different levels of truth. The deepest level of truth uncovered by science and by philosophy is the fundamental truth of unity. At that deepest subnuclear level of our reality, you and I are literally one.
This gradually led into some notions that there was an invisible connection between everything. Physicists give this a name. They call it entanglement.
As Einstein.
You can call it entanglement, or you can call it symmetry or supersymmetry. Supersymmetry and quantum entanglement are the same, or they're synonymous, I think. So, yep, they go hand in hand. Now, being synonymous, as in the same thing, maybe not, but they do go hand in hand as notions.
That there was an invisible connection between everything. Physicists give this a name. They call it entanglement.
As Einstein put it, he didn't believe that quantum mechanics could be true because it required that there be spooky action at a distance. That was his term. And what he meant is that when we have our ordinary sense of the way that the fabric of reality is, it seems like these two places are absolutely in space, they're separate, and never the twain shall meet. But in fact, it's not true. At some deeper level that we can't see with our eyes very clearly, two places in space are the same.
All right. So boom, this is why I bring up the analogy with parallel lines. Parallel lines, in theory, based off of our understanding of the experience of physics, should never meet. It doesn't matter how far in the past or the future you go, them two separate lines will never meet in the dimension that we live in. But in the realms higher, parallel lines do indeed intersect at some venture point or another, at some dimensional avenue or another. Now, the question is, why is it that way in the higher dimensions, but we operate in the opposite way in this dimension or in this realm of existence?
They are co-located, coexisting. So if we imagine that common sense, the way common sense literally meaning that your senses tell you about the world, if that's the way the world is actually constructed, then things like psychic and mystical experience don't make any sense at all. Because the whole point about psychic and mystical experience that makes them strange is the sense that there's some kind of connection between what's going on inside your head and things elsewhere in space and in time. So what this view of quantum mechanics provides is a way of framing what these strange experiences are like. And it reframes it from somehow magically information is getting inside my head from signals or forces or something into a different view, which is that in a sense your head, yes, is here, but it's also spread out. It's spread out through space and time. And so when I'm able to get a telepathic impression from somebody at a distance, it's not because I somehow jumped out there and got it, but because at some deep level, my head and the other person's head are co-located.
See, and this is a thing which those of us on this side of the persuasion have understood since, forever, since as long as there's been this battle between deterministic materialism and reality. We've always understood that there's a God, a common source that connects all of us. We've been saying the same thing. Okay. Now it becomes which one of those gods is the God who represents this God that science is now uncovering and begrudgingly uncovering. Okay, why won't they admit it's our God? Because then they got to admit that we're God's people. That's my take on it. But
to this conference in Georgia Tech in Atlanta, and I brought this book. It's called Gravitation. It's kind of the Bible of relativistic equation. It's written by Wheeler, Thorne, and Mesner. It's the foundation of general relativity. And you can see it's quite a thick book, so you know everything you need to know about gravity when you try to pick it up. And in the middle of the book is this illustration at page 719. So I was in this conference, and I kept on asking fundamental questions, which was annoying a lot of the people in the conference. It was a small private conference with the director of the physics department there, other physicists, other mathematicians. And I was attempting to go back to the foundations of physics, and in advanced physics conferences, that's not really allowed. Everybody there has accepted the fundamental of physics, and you're not supposed to be rehashing it. You're supposed to be going into for 240 dimension of Calabi-Yau and superstrings and, very complex math, and you're not supposed to go back to the basics. So I kept on asking basic questions, and that was annoying everybody. I can have that tendency. But, at one point I said, you guys, I need to stop everybody because I have this question. And they said, okay, what's your question? And then I said, well, I opened the book on this page and I said, if I understand our universe as we describe it today with our equations, the example we give is a balloon. The universe is expanding and we have little pennies glued to it. The pennies represent galaxies moving away from each other as the balloon expands. Well, I am a little confused because I said to them, I've been looking in all these physics books. I've been studying physics for a while now. I look everywhere. I can't find the equation. Can you guys show me where the equation is? Because, I might have missed it. I'm sure I missed it. Then I'll shut up if you can show me where the equation is. And they said, what equation? I said, I want to understand who's this guy. And, I got a different reaction than this. The room got very quiet. There was one of the students, PhD students, in the end of the table. He was drinking coffee and he went, and I could see the director of the physics department started to have a little sweat on his forehead because I think he thought I was going to say God, And he was like, oh no, don't say the word God in the physics department. In front of my students. One of the first laws of physics you learn when you're a kid, right? Conservation law. Recently, I had an argument. Well, it's not really an argument because I didn't even bother answering it. Blog on the net. Saying, oh, he's confused about that. Let me give you another analogy. They said, the universe is like raisin bread. I was like, really? Raisin bread? And and the raisins are the galaxy, and as the bread expands, the galaxy move away from each other. I'm like, oh. And then he said, you see, no need for conservation law. I'm like, really? It is he wrote, it is the nature of the bread to expand. Wow! This guy needs cooking lessons. I hope he's not doing the cooking at home. Because if you just put flour and raisin and water together, you know, it's just going to sit there. You need, you know, you need an agent to make it grow. You need, you know, yeast to make it grow. Yeast is a chemical reaction, is thermodynamic as well. It produces energy. You need energy for that thing to expand. Plus, you got to put it in, you know, you got to put it in an oven, and never mind that you need a cook to make the bread. What I'm saying is that in the balloon is pressure pushing the balloon open. There's compression of air in order for the balloon to expand. There is an energy potential inside the balloon that's making the effect occur. And that part is not being on the force there that has not been calculated in physics yet.
Become entitled all the time when you communicate telepathically. Those experiences are so striking. I literally can read your thoughts if I become entangled with you. And such things happen. There are distant viewing experiments. There are even experiments now that you are seeing light flashes and your brain potential picks up the signature of those light flashes, what is called evoke potential, that can be measured in an EEG machine connected to your brain. And I am sitting over there, no light flashes, I cannot see you, and still my brain potentials, because I am correlated with you in terms of intention, I intend to be directly communicative with your experiences. That intention produces me, gives me the capability of simultaneously having the similar brain potential in my brain.
All right. Now, there's a bit that he said, this Indian guy. So this idea of telepathic communication, nonverbal communication, mind-to-mind connection, small-scale quantum entanglement. Now, in the scriptures, what is an example of telepathy or mind-to-mind quantum entanglement? What's an example that you can think of? It's the interaction with the angels, not in every interaction, but in a few in particular. So I'm going to bring you to one. This was produced back in 2021. This is a part of the Heavens and Dimensions preview lessons that we were doing. But this one is not a preview lesson per se. This is a whole lesson that deserves a video in itself. I don't often pat myself on the back, but I will say, if you have not checked this lesson out, between the scientific breakdown of Balaam and the donkey, you need to check it out. I promise you, I did not disappoint with this. So look, I'll just give you the preview first sentence, right? One of the clearest indications that animals can see interdimensional angelic beings comes from the book of Numbers, chapter 22, out of the Torah Tanakh. It also directly showcases the limitations of the visible light spectrum on what man can and cannot see in the earth realm, at least by default. How many of you are aware of Balaam and the donkey, the tale of Balaam and the donkey? I'm assuming everybody, but if there's anybody who isn't understood on it, let me know, and then we'll give a quick run through.
Yeah, I've never heard of that story.
All right, so pretty much this angel is told by God to stop Balaam from going to a particular location, and Balaam is on his donkey on the way to said location, and an angel is standing in the middle of the road, except Balaam does not see the angel, but the donkey does. And the angel does not make itself present to Balaam until Balaam starts to abuse the donkey. And then the angel makes itself present, allows itself to be seen by Balaam in order to chastise Balaam about his treatment of the donkey. And then also to let him know, like, hey, nigga, you don't want to go over there. That's pretty much the long gist of it, right? But the reason why I'm bringing it up is to showcase to you the abilities of the angels. How is the angel able to make itself known or present to the donkey, but not to a man? What is it about a donkey's eyes and brain, or a man's eyes and brain, which would allow the angel the ability to essentially be invisible or not invisible? This is quantum mechanics dealing stuff. So let's just go down here, because I do a few question and answers with myself and with the text, right? So I'll give you an example, like, how did the communication between the angel of God and Balaam take place? Answer 3. As stated previously, there are only one of 3 options that could have taken place in relation to the conversation exchange between the angel of God and Balaam. Option 1, Balaam was wide awake and aware when the angel of God came to meet him. Option 2, Balaam was awake but unawares consciously that in the experience with the angel of God, he was having it in the form of a daydream. And option 3, Balaam was asleep when the meeting between the angel of God and himself took place within the context or confines of a dream. So we worked through a whole, every contextual position that could be had. And then I'm going to take you here, right? So question 6, how was the Jenny, the female donkey, able to see the angel throughout the entire duration of the experience? And why was Balaam not able to see the angel that the she donkey was somehow able to see? And this is the answer that I was able to come up with, right? Or no, the answer is below, but we'll get to it as we move down. Question 8. How was the angel able to teleport itself from one location in space-time to another? The answer: angels are interdimensional entities who are not bound by the limitations of the third dimension. In order to be able to engage in teleportation, we must realize we are dealing with dematerialization and materialization of a being made of subtle matter, and then being able to do it at will, right? Intention. This would be indicative of being at least fifth dimensional, right? So the angel in this particular situation is at least of the fifth dimension. Now we're going to see why. In order to teleport, one would need the ability to fold space-time, fold the fourth dimension, in other words, which would be the third and the fourth comprising the earth plane continuum. One would need enough degrees of freedom to be able to fold the fourth dimension in order to relocate in a 3D geographic location at a 4D specified time, and doing it at will. So how much less to be able to do this instantaneously as is displayed in this short segment in Numbers 22. The angel did this with absolute ease, like it was Super Saiyan off of some Dragon Ball Z. You know, when a nigga touch his forehead and fucking change positions, he be in one place and then another. That's what the angel was doing in this predicament, right? This is at least a fifth dimensional ability of this level of particular angel, given it takes this level of degrees of freedom to be able to bend space and time, or in other words, fold the fourth dimension in order to engage in what we know as some form of quantum teleportation. So when you're talking about teleportation, telekinesis, things of this nature, the angels are able to do it. Here's another question. Why is situational awareness, emotional control, and empathy important? If Balaam was more empathetic to the she-donkey's reactions, he would have been able to maintain his emotional regulation enough to be aware that something was off. Because of Balaam's failure to follow instructions, he brought this situation of an armed angel on himself. If he had exercised better listening comprehension skills, better awareness, this would not have been the case. Emotional control and regulation is what hinges the two other subject matters together. Due to Balaam's poor emotional temperament with the donkey and the donkey's experience of Balaam's poor emotional temperament, he was unable to empathize with the animals, so much so that he resorted to physical abuse out of frustration. And the angel was able to witness and perceive all of this, right? And because of this unwarranted escalating physical abuse, the angel had to intercede in order to address Balaam directly. Right? So Balaam was physically abusing the animal to the point where it irritated the angel, so that the angel materialized to the point where Balaam was able to see him. So there's this ability to control the perception of the mind of not only animals, but of man in relation to, being witnessed or being observed. The reason why I brought this up is because the angel is displaying abilities which we would associate with the fifth dimension. And it relates to what this individual was saying, because they're looking down from a certain vantage point where they're able to see things which maybe from the vantage point that we're in, we don't have a perception to understand or convey. So angels are electromagnetic plasma based beings who can choose to fully materialize within the third dimension or not. These various beings range in habitations in terms of dimensional locations from the fourth on, or I should correct this, from the fifth on to the eighth, or I guess you can say fourth. You can refer to electromagnetism with other synonyms such as ethereal, light, shadowy, intangible, celestial, ghostly, divine, gaseous, plasma, unearthly, immaterial, incorporeal, spiritual, metaphysical, supernatural, psychic, formless, bodiless, angelic, transcendental, etc. All of these words are all synonymous. All right.
If I become entangled with you, and such things happen. There are distant viewing experiments. There are even experiments now that you are seeing light flashes and your brain potential picks up the signature of those light flashes, what is called evoke potential, that can be measured in an EEG machine connected to your brain. And I am sitting over there, no light flashes, I cannot see you, and still my brain potentials, because I am correlated with you in terms of intention, I intend to be directly communicative with your experiences. That intention produces me, gives me the capability of simultaneously having the similar brain potential in my brain. It was first done by Jacobo Greenberg at the University of Mexico and now repeated by Peter Fenwick in London.
So in other words, he's giving you an example of two experiments which have taken place utilizing quantum entanglement of the human brain and doing it with people in separate rooms. You see?
The day should be the sunrise. It should be the beginning of great thought.
I wake up in the morning and I consciously create my day the way I want it to happen. Now sometimes, because my mind is examining all the things that I need to get done, it takes me a little bit to settle down and get to the point of where I'm actually intentionally creating my day. But here's the thing, when I create my day, and out of nowhere, little things happen that are so unexplainable, I know that they are the process or the result of my creation. And the more I do that, the more I build a neural net in my brain that I accept that that's possible. It gives me the power and the incentive to do it the next day.
And we all create our own realities. And we do that because we are the observer. We are each the own observer of our own reality. And each of our individual consciousnesses creates our own individual reality in the most amazing way. My son, Evan, the physicist, says, it's an additive thing. I mean, if I'm holding one reality and someone else is holding another reality, it's the Super Bowl this afternoon.
And the reality that the Eagles are holding is a different reality than what the Patriots are holding. And only one of those realities are going to be the real reality. So there's some additive, and there are interference patterns.
Well, I think if we keep
All right. So I just want to chime on to what she was saying. See, these scientists are only understanding that the first layer of quantum observership. They don't realize that there's 2 more layers above that. So this interference pattern doesn't only come from other individuals who are manifesting their reality, right? It doesn't only come from them and other human interaction. You also have the guardian observers or the angelic observers, and they're either working to foment the reality of the ultimate observer above or to fight against it. And then at the last level, at the base, you have the ultimate observer, which is the creator. They're on the right path, but they still don't want to look above and beyond the limitations of the human mind and start to embrace the infinite nature of the creator's mind and start doing some exploring up in them higher territories, so that way they can get guidance on how to explore the lower territories. We'll do 10 more minutes of this video, and then we'll wrap up the final thoughts.
Quantum physics and the understanding very simple for the layperson, that our observation has a direct effect on our world. I think if we keep it very simple, then people can get about the business of beginning to practice the skill of observation. See, the subatomic world responds to our observation, but the average person loses their attention span every 6 to 10 seconds per minute. So that doesn't...
All right, so this kind of lends back to what I was saying in terms of, us children of the book. And when I was saying that, our people get murdered day in and day out, and then we kick up a small bit of dust, and then we go back to sleep. Kick up dust, and then go back to sleep. Kick up dust, and go back to sleep. It's the same shit. It's lack of focus, lack of awareness. This lack of awareness, this lack of focal point on unity and unifying around the creator and realizing who and what our enemies are is the reason for our continued demise. Black people under the curses just have a really small and minuscule awareness. You see what I'm saying? It's like a golf ball size, and it needs to expand and grow to become bigger, to more like the size of a basketball, not a golf ball. You see what I'm saying? Once you get to a basketball size awareness, then maybe we could start dribbling and doing some things. But with a golf ball, you can't do shit.
Leave a lot of room for our attention span. So how can the very large respond to someone who doesn't have the ability to even focus and concentrate? Maybe we're just poor observers. Maybe we haven't mastered the skill of observation, and maybe it is a skill. And maybe we're so addicted to the external world and so addicted to the stimulus and response to the external world that the brain is beginning to work out of response instead of out of creation. If we're given the proper knowledge and the proper understanding and given the proper instruction, we should begin to see measurable feedback in our life. If you make the effort to sit down and design a new life, and you make it the most important thing, and you spend time every day feeding it like a gardener feeds a seed, you will produce fruit.
But I'll play it back one more time just because I feel like he was talking to the children of Israel kind of without really doing it. But listen up. Just listen clear and thinking of Deuteronomy 28, Ezekiel 18, and that type of notion, right?
Keep quantum physics and the understanding very simple for the layperson, that our observation has a direct effect on our world. I think if we keep it very simple, then people can get about the business of beginning to practice the skill of observation. See, the subatomic world responds to our observation, but the average person loses their attention span every 6 to 10 seconds per minute. So that doesn't leave a lot of room for our attention span. So how can the very large respond to someone who doesn't have the ability to even focus and concentrate?
Are you listening to what he's saying? How can the large, right, the bigger things in the equation, respond to anything that we're doing when we don't even have the focus of mind to pay awareness to the smaller things? Right? So how God gonna pay any attention to any grand plans you got when you ain't paying attention to the small steps that you got to make in order for God to achieve those things and help you achieve those things? Our people are moving ass backwards. We want to focus on everything else except for what we're supposed to focus on. You want to put the blame and point the finger at God instead of looking in the mirror and saying, all right, well, I need to fix this. I need to fix that. I need to fix this. And I need to fix that. And then maybe God will answer me. And whatever bucket list or checklist that you got of things that need to be rectified, as you notch them off, watch God move closer and closer to you, opening the doorway for, you know, handling those bigger issues because you're taking care of the smaller things. Remember, moment by moment, present by present, you want to stay in that moment and focus on that 0 and 1 equation and which one is the best one that'll put you in the most pertinent position. And when you get the smaller things in order, then the bigger things come onto the plate. So it's kind of like, again, the sports analogy. When you want to be a professional athlete, you got to do the basics perfectly or as close to perfect as you can. And I would say, if I'm honest, one of the reasons which maybe stagnated, you know, my progression was one, thinking bigger instead of thinking smaller. Trying to learn how to do Ronaldinho flip flaps, which I successfully did. I trained myself in a semester to do it and did it in game. And I'm proud of that. But belying the fact, I could have just been on my Lionel Messi. Lionel Messi doesn't need a flip-flop and fancy moves in order to break niggas down. He masters the basics and masters the basics so well that it's like watching poetry. It's almost better than watching niggas who do step overs and fancy shit. Cause it's like, damn, this nigga just dog walked 11 people and he did it doing chops and cuts and acceleration and deacceleration. And it's like, yo, what the fuck? Why didn't I think to just master the basics and the simples, and then the bigger picture will handle itself because all of the smaller things have already been put into place? You know, it's the same thing with our people. Focus on yourself. Focus on Ezekiel 18. Clean yourself up. Make sure everybody, including myself, make sure we're good on an individual basis. And then God will do all of the attracting. He's that bonding force between all of us to get us to all come together to navigate towards each other during this collapse. And then with him navigating us all towards each other, then the bigger issue will be able to be accomplished. But as long as we're small drops in the pond, not working on cleaning ourselves up, it doesn't matter if the dirty pond get together as one pond, each individual dirty droplet get together. All you're going to do is make one big dirty ass pond. And that's not what God looking to work with. God looking to work with clean water, right? So every drop got to fix itself up, get your TDS meter out, distill yourself, put all the junk to the wayside, and then come together with that one intention and focus so we can achieve the ultimate state of quantum entanglement. And that is union with our God, right? Based on the principles.
Maybe we're just poor observers. Maybe we haven't mastered the skill of observation, and maybe it is a skill. And maybe we're so addicted to the external world and so addicted to the stimulus and response to the.
He talking about Exodus 16. The Israelites then and now. We'll just focus on the example of Exodus 16. You focus on the worldly things, the ways of Egypt. God trying to pull us out of that, bring us somewhere greater than that. But he got to break you down first and have you deal with the smaller things, the basics, like your moral code and even your diet. We got to purge those things out of you. Get the smaller steps out the way, and then we can talk about big things. Big things is moving into the land and you governing yourself. But right now you can't handle that. So you got to spend 40 years in the wilderness chipping away at the little things, working on the basics. the first 10 commandments. Get the basics down. Then we can talk making gravy. But let's get the other stuff down packed first. Right?
External world, that the brain is beginning to work out of response instead of out of creation. If we're given the proper knowledge and the proper understanding and given the proper instruction, we should begin to see measurable feedback in our life. If you make the effort to sit down and design a new life, and you make it the most important thing, and you spend time every day feeding it like a gardener feeds a seed, you will produce fruit.
And this is the same notion that the scriptures tells you. Asking the question for you guys and the people listening on the playback, when have the American Negro, the Israelites, the descendants, when have we ever given the Torah Tanakh a chance? When have we ever given it our complete and undivided focus and attention? When have we collectively called on our God with sincerity in heart and true intention? When has it ever happened in history? It didn't even happen during the first Exodus. It's never happened. Far as I remember, I don't think I'm butchering that, but it didn't even happen in the first Exodus. They didn't call on God in one voice and accord. Moses had to go handle everything. So at what point are we going to give it a go? It's been 2,500 years. Niggas tried a million other things except for the thing that maybe we should be trying. But on that note, we are going to end today's session, given we reached the 2 hour and probably 40-minute mark. And I don't want it to get too crazy in the editing. And then also we want to leave enough for tomorrow's episode. So that way, hopefully we can end it out.
I got a quick question, Vin. In regards to using the phrase "our people," right? What exactly is what's dictating that? And should our people really be? And this is just, gosh, for lack of better words, right now, thought. But should our people really be just the ones that's actually on that wave and actually doing that work and not really paying attention to the others that's really not? Because it seems a bit as of a distraction. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the other nations really don't matter in relation to us and what our duty is. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, like even like when we're talking other nations, like this is not dictated by race, is it?
Well, all right, race and nation are the same thing when it comes to ancient context. So your race is your nation of people.
Okay. So within our nation now, what is I'm guessing the whole body, that's our people now. But the ones that's not really doing this work, like, are they necessarily the one, like, is it still our people because they're not really on that same gosh, level of awareness, I guess would be the phrase to use, that our people seem to be on, right? Which is kind of holding back exactly what the ultimate goal is through all of this, no?
Yep. Well, all right. So see, that's a part of the dilemma. So that's what Ezekiel 37 is about. So that's about the renewal or the reawakening of the mind. These people being given the opportunity to understand. Now, all of them ain't gonna come back too. But as you've seen over the years, this becoming common knowledge now, it's almost to the point where now people are mocking us for it when we come out and we say it directly. And given that, the 3 or 4 stages of a truth, mocking is one of the first steps, large scale, before the hatred comes. That's a part in Jacob's trouble that's approaching. But to answer your question, as far as the other nations of people, it's not really going to matter what they focus on because we have a destined timeline to fulfill that's already been outlined. We just have to play the role right. Now, as far as the others amongst us, our nation of people, I would agree with you. Heathen-minded Israelites are the same as heathens. The only thing that we have in common is bloodline. So that's what would save them if they decide to come back too. But yeah, I mean, shoot, you have proselytes who will be fighting with us against some of the Israelites who going to be on Team Wicked. After Bloodline, it'll just be philosophical persuasion. You're either with God or you're not with God, and it won't really matter what nation of people you are.
Yeah.
But as far as like roles in the book, in terms of prophecies, there's roles in the books for our people to fulfill that obviously the other nations of people don't qualify for. So then it's not on their plate to really worry about focusing on.
So is it just work that this is works that's assigned to us specifically that we're supposed to do, and the other nations, they're just not capable of this?
I wouldn't say they're not capable, because when you're reading the books and the prophecies, there's only a remnant of every nation that's going to make it. So if you're looking at this as like a team sport, and the Most High is our coach and Azazel's the opposite coach, right? Each team has, let's say, one captain. And in terms of nations being represented in terms of individual talk, the nation of Israel is the captain of mankind. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
So
Yep.
the captain has a particular responsibility, although he shares a common destiny with the rest of the team. He has a particular role in that destiny. The captain then has to play the role in order for the results to and play the role correctly in order for the results to kind of collapse the way that you want them to collapse. Now, given the prophecies in the book say that 2/3 of our people, the majority of our people, are not going to come back. They're going to be on the other side. That's 2/3, 66%.
Yeah.
Somebody like me, as far as I understand, my role is to get my nation of people together, to get the descendants of Israel together, because then that will kickstart the whole ending of the game, right? Once we start to come to, get to know the laws, apply the laws to our life, that opens up the door for us to start to call on this God with one voice. See what I'm saying? Me doing it by myself and each individual one of us doing it just by ourselves without reaching that 33% that God had set. We got to reach that 33%. And then once that's reached, according to at least what God has instructed, then we'll start to see the dividing of the wheat from the chaff, in other words. You see what I'm saying? Then you'll start to see the complete. You're seeing it now, but it's going to be full scale once, the cat's out the bag and everybody gets a chance to be like, okay, this is the script. These are the characters in the script. We know what's going on in the prophecies now. We can either choose to adhere it or we can choose to ignore it.
I get you.
Yeah. So, all right.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, no problems. Anybody else with any commentaries or questions before we get a ending prayer? Going once.
Yeah. So, what's the plan? What's the plan for these guys, the enemies, that is? Is it some kind of plan of keeping us ignorant so that the end doesn't happen? Or is it some kind of higher plan where they try to trap our dimension in a perpetual cycle so that, once again, the end doesn't happen?
Yeah, probably a bit of both, but what are you talking about, from the enemy, like the angels, or the men that the angels use?
I mean, well, they're in cahoots, so both sides of that. What is their ultimate goal? Because it can't be to defeat the ultimate or the original entity. So what is their goal?
Well, all right. So the reason why I brought up the distinction is because I don't think that the human servants of the fallen angels have the same goal exactly as the fallen angels themselves. The fallen angels themselves, they don't care about material. They more want the energetic association. So they want to corrupt as many human spirits as possible. Now, the elite, I don't think they necessarily care about corrupting as many human people as possible. They care about the payout that comes with doing that. You see what I'm saying? That the benefits they get from the fallen angels for carrying out these actions. So I wouldn't say that the Illuminati necessarily care too much about the destination of human souls. They kind of just care about the material gratification that comes with serving the gods that they're serving.
Right, but surely if they've served these gods, then they know our God is real and they know his wrath will come. So what's the end goal?
They don't believe that though. They actually really believe that they can fuck with, you know what I mean? Like they actually really believe that. The only ones who don't know they can't fuck with him are the fallen angels. That's why they're the most spiteful, because it's like, you niggas know y'all can't win. But your human minions actually believe you when you feed them the details, thinking that you can win. Like, y'all niggas know y'all can't win. You know how the script ends. So like,
In a sense, it's kind of like an act of like spiteful vengeance.
all right, it's like playing, yeah, it's like playing chess and knowing that you've pretty much lost the game, but you keep making these little small moves to make the game keep going. And the nigga that you playing against who won already told you he got to leave 10 minutes ago, but you just going to keep making these little petty moves to keep the game going. That's like what, you know, the anointed cherub is doing. He just being a bitch. Like, it's inevitable, it's already set, but I know that I could be a bitch and keep dragging this shit out. Okay, so this brother here is Billy Carson, and in this video, he makes some pretty interesting arguing points if you're not somebody who studies the scriptures. But for those of us who do, these are pretty weak. So we'll start out with his first claim that Hashatan is a cherubim and not even an angel. If this brother would study instead of running his mouth about things he doesn't study, he'd understand that cherubims are a classification of angels. Secondly, the man made the assumption that Hashatan is just as intelligent as the Most High God, which is not true. Just because you are levels smarter or wiser than man doesn't mean you're on the same level as the Creator. That's a ridiculous assessment. And then finally, he makes the assessment that prophecies come from man, and why would a being who's smarter than men follow the prophecies of men to his own demise? That's just another ridiculous assessment, showing he has no understanding of where prophecy comes from. Prophecy does not come from man, it's delivered to man. And the reason why Hashatan has to follow the prophecies which are set is because the only being outside of the space-time continuum, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, can see all possible timelines and all possible world lines which are available. And if this being is a cosmic chess player competing in a cosmic chess match against another cosmic entity, then technically in a chess match can be over or won or lost when there's still moves on the board to play. So the winner of a chess match can see that he's won the chess match, and the loser of the chess match can see that they lost, but they still have moves to play. So you can postpone a loss and make it perceivable that you're not losing just because there's still moves on the board. But just because there's still moves on the board doesn't mean that the game isn't already over. And that's what this brother is not understanding. Our God is the only entity outside of creation. Everything else, including Hashatan, is within the confines of creation. Therefore, they're limited by the choices they make. God is not limited by the choices he makes because he is all possibilities. So this dude's argument just shows he doesn't study the Torah Tanakh. He doesn't even study his own material properly. And you guys need to stop listening to controlled opposition and new age Masonic agents like Billy Carson. This is an easy argument. I would destroy this dude in less than 5 minutes.
Real quick on that, Vid. Real quick on that as well. So even with these same niggas here, these higher power elites or whatever they are, like even with them, should we even be focusing or even care what these niggas be doing? Yes, it's much as a lot of this lesson has been about. It's where you lay your focus, but don't want to say it's a matter of thinking them out of existence, but they're gonna do what they're gonna do. Now, the second you recognize that, yes, be aware that these things are there, but the like saying, oh no, we got to do something about it. It's got to no, we don't, we don't. What we got to do is what we got to do. So even like because it becomes almost like a trap, or it could be, right? Saying I'm doing this and it's a positive thing. No, it's just putting focus towards something you shouldn't be focused about. Don't worry, there's already something planned out for these niggas. Much like we said, right? So,
Yeah, it's like what we had written here. Let me see. Was it scan notes? And negative possibilities manifest when we least expect them. Anticipation prevents or mitigates them from happening. So to answer your question, no, we shouldn't really worry about the elite in an obsessive way. You want to be aware of them. You want to be aware of what they're doing, but you don't have to be obsessed with it, because ultimately there's nothing that they're going to do that's going to stop the game plan. All right, I'll put it to you this way. The more I've understood what I think I'm understanding with the order of prophecy and how it's going to unfold, the less concerned I am about understanding the enemy's plans on a personal level. Now, to be able to teach other people so that they can try and get up to fast track to where we think we are in understanding, as a teacher, I have to do them things. Like I have to focus on them and kind of study them and get to know them, so that way I can teach about them. So that way it can open up the 0, 1 possibility of choice for people who are dry bones. But once they become aware of the information, it's not to keep them trapped in this emotional, obsessive state of consuming themselves and their attention with the Illuminati. Once you get on that part and you understand that, then you should automatically understand that there's a thesis to the antithesis. So if the Illuminati exists and the devil exists, then God exists. So then once you realize God exists, you might as well just focus on God, and then you realize that he protects you and acts as a buffer towards the enemy that you are obsessing over because you're fearful of. I would just say that you're right. You shouldn't focus on them. But for me as a teacher, to try to help other people understand who don't read or study any of this stuff, I sort of have to kind of focus on them to a degree. But as long as we're not obsessing, then I think we're in a good space.
No, straight up understand that position. That makes sense.
All right. All right. So with that being said, I just want to give all praises and thanks and glory to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of our forefathers. I want to thank him once more for giving us the breath of life to allow us to come together today to commune and to break down wisdoms and to break bread and to meditate on his word and his understanding with one another, and hoping for the opportunity tomorrow to do the very same. Hallelujah.
Dear Lord, thank you for giving me the strength and the conviction to complete the task you entrusted to me. Thank you for guiding me straight and true through the many obstacles in my path. And for keeping me resolute when all around seemed lost. Thank you for your protection and for your many signs along the way. Thank you for any good that I may have done, and I'm so sorry about the bad. Thank you for finally allowing me to rest. I'm so very tired, but I go now to my rest at peace, knowing that I have done right with my time on this earth. I fought the good fight. I finished the race. I kept the faith.